Hello, welcome back to another podcast, and this is podcast number 4 of Off the Woodwork with Sam and
Kris?
and I hope you're looking forward to today's episode. So we've got to discuss today in terms of cricket. We've got the 100 draft, India against South Africa, and the World T20 qualifiers. We've got the Champions League of Darts to discuss, the Rugby World Cup, and in our football section we've got the return of the Premier League, and then also we're going to talk a bit about the racism and those issues that have been going on, especially in the last week. So starting with our football then, I'm going to start with North London this time. Tottenham 1, Watford 1, saved by VAR.
I think so. I think it was a clear penalty. Once again, we did not play well at all. First half, we didn't turn up to the game at all. Second half, we tried to save the game. We pressured them for 45 minutes. Dele Alli scoring in 87th minute, securing us a point at White Hart Lane. Now, Pochettino has changed his formation this week. He moved away from the diamond, which I think is a good idea because the players didn't look as exhausted in the second half. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the diamond formation is so tiring? Why do the players get so tired?
I just think that what a Norwich play. I don't think we do a diamond, and just think kind of midfield's always kind of a tiring role, isn't it? And if you're in the diamond, sometimes you can just find yourself at both ends of the pitch quite a lot, can't you? Especially for us, like Norwich, we're a counter-attacking team, you wouldn't want sort of players having to cover too much ground. Like usually we would always leave one up, but with the diamond, I think perhaps you don't leave enough players sort of when you're defending. You don't leave enough players on the halfway line.
There's just too much space, isn't it, to cover? And also going back to Tottenham, I think teams now come to North London to play Tottenham with a lot of courage and confidence because they know that we're not doing well, and I think it's that psychological effect.
Yeah, like with Man United as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Watford, they turned up. They played really well. They didn't drop back. They didn't park the bus. They were attacking throughout the entire game, which I think made a good game. But something needs to change, I still think.
What did you make of the equaliser? Like, it did touch his hand, but was it enough to overturn it?
That's difficult. Personally, I think he made the move. He made the hand movement, which sort of allowed him to get the ball in front of him and score.
Say that goal had been scored against you, would you have wanted it to be chalked off?
We're being biased here, but looking at it objectively, I think that in the whole game was dominated by VAR and sort of bad decisions. Was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty? Was it a handball? But
the whole weekend was, unfortunately.
Exactly. But objectively, I think for me, that was a handball.
Yes, on my side of the border, we got a 0-0 draw in Norwich away to Bournemouth, and that was our first away point of the season and first clean sheet of the season, and probably one of the most satisfying goalless draws we've had. We haven't had one since November 2018. Usually our games have had a minimum of about 5 goals, but battling performance, much better at the back for Norwich. We weren't really that kind of threatening up top, but I think in the Premier League, you can't kind of have that balance that you can have in the Championship. Yeah. Like in the Championship, you can kind of be rubbish in defence but really good in attack and still go up like we did. But
exactly.
If you're rubbish in defence in the Premier League, and they're naturally going to play against better defences, so that's kind of been our problem so far this season. A few stats from that match, and yes, as I said, both Bournemouth and Norwich kept their first clean sheets of the season with that draw, and then the last 2 teams to achieve that feat in the Premier League this season. Norwich, we ended a losing run of 7 games away from home in the Premier League, and we've only taken points in 3 of our last 20 matches on the road in the Premier League, which stretches back to 2016. Relief for those who have been watching the team away from home this season. We still haven't scored a goal in the first half of an away game since December 2015. Obviously, we haven't been in the Premier League since 2016, but nevertheless, that's a run that stretches back over 10 games, and that was when Cameron Jerome scored at Old Trafford. A good day that was. And finally, our first goalless draw since November 2018, which was away to Hull City. So, a point gained in my opinion. Bournemouth might see it as 2 points dropped for them, but we just needed to sort of stop the rot. We've got a few more players back injured, or back fit, I should say. And next week, we've got Man United. I'll get onto that a little bit later. Elsewhere in the Premier League, Leicester, another win for them.
Yeah, I think they're doing quite. I told you before. I think that they could possibly make it to the top four this season. At the moment, they're sitting in third place with 17 points after 9 games. I think if they carry on like this, they will make it to the Champions League next year.
And Liverpool's winning run's finally come to an end. A 1-1 draw against Man United.
Yeah, and once again dominated by VAR. The United goal, Rashford's goal, was it a foul on Origi in the build-up?
I thought it definitely was a foul, but it's just so hard, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because you're almost just re-refereeing the game completely.
Exactly. The
Like,
question is, how far do you go back when a goal is scored? How when does it stop? When do you draw the line? And for me, in this case, I think because the foul affected the way in which United went forward, they broke straight away. Which I think in this case it should have been given as a foul. But then again, it's really difficult to decide where to stop this, and then it's the referee's subjective decision, and he's always going to be scrutinised for it.
Fantasy football, Kris, another week to forget.
Another week to forget. I got 25 points. Mind you, the average was 30, but I had 3 players who did not play at all. I had Aguero, he didn't play. I had Otamendi and Amate from Leicester. So on to next week. What about you?
Yeah, there is still one game left of the week. By the way, Sheffield United play Arsenal tonight. Should be an interesting one. Tough game for Arsenal, I think. I've had an okay week in the end. It was looking like a disaster, but because Kyle Walker didn't play, Aguero, my captain, didn't play, but for some reason I had Edison as vice captain, and he kept a clean sheet, so he'll get 12 points. And I've got Harry Maguire 2 points and Jack Grealish 13 points on the bench, who will both come on. So I'll get over 50 points, and my week's kind of gone from a very bad to okay-ish. So yeah, I will take that. The Championship this week then. West Brom still remain on top after beating Middlesbrough away from home. Really alarming to see how Borough have slumped in recent years, considering they were only in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. Reading, they got a 98th minute winner against Preston. Luton hammered Bristol City, and Wigan beat Nottingham Forest yesterday. I watched that. Wigan, really tough nut to crack at home. Any other interesting results that caught your eye, Kris?
The Huddersfield, they're not doing very well, are they? And it's sort of...
They had a terrible start, but
start.
Since the new manager, I think they're 4 unbeaten, so
yeah,
they're getting
they've
better.
got 4 games with the new manager. They've got 2 wins and 2 draws, but it seemed like another Sunderland story, didn't it, at the start of the season? And now they're getting back to it. But yeah, it's interesting how quickly you can go from the Premier League to Championship or even League One sometimes. Yes,
on that, newly promoted clubs like Luton, they're doing okay in the league. And why do you think sometimes that a lot of teams sort of go up, and especially in the Premier League, like Norwich might do it this season, why do you think a lot of teams seem to go up and then just come straight back down? Is it down to recruitment or not adapting to the style of the league?
I think it's just adapting, especially in England. It's quite difficult because you'd think that coming from the Championship to the Premier League would be easier because of the amount of games. You play less games. It's sort of, it's less tiring. It's less cramped and stuff. But what they've failed to realise is that the level of the Premier League is
so much more advanced.
So much more advanced than it is in the Championship. That players sometimes struggle. But also, what some clubs do, they think that making a lot of transfers in the transfer window will help them. And that's not always true.
Yeah,
as we saw with Fulham last season, spent over 100 mil, got relegated straight back down. It's, there has to be chemistry in the team as well as quality. So we have to have both together rather than going for one alone. It's a combination of both. But it's difficult to say. There's definitely a lot of reasons why clubs go down. But it doesn't always end like this. Some clubs do really well in the Premier League when they come up.
Yeah, so on the fact, more sort of less games in the Premier, I sometimes think that more games can help because, like in the Championship, you have like lots more Tuesday night games, and sometimes, say you lost at the weekend, you get that chance to bounce back, don't you? Kind of straight away. Whereas the Prem sometimes, you got like 3 international breaks in the first half of the season, so you have to wait 2 weeks just to sort of well, for us, wait 2 weeks for a 0-0 draw, and that was a good result.
That's especially with smaller teams. Bigger clubs from the top 6, they play in European competition, so maybe that's easier for them. But yeah, especially with smaller clubs, then they have to wait for a long time to bounce back.
Okay, racism in football then. It's
Mm.
not been a very good week, although we did see that incident in
Uh-huh.
Bulgaria last
Mhm.
Monday, and then there was another incident in an FA Cup tie this weekend between Haringey Borough and Yeovil,
Yeah,
where
well.
the Haringey players walked off the pitch after allegations that a home player was racially abused. The match was abandoned after 64 minutes. That was shortly after Yeovil had gone 1-0 up.
Mhm.
The Haringey Borough Twitter account tweeted this: "Sorry for the late update, but wanted to make sure we gave correct information. Game has been abandoned following racial abuse. Horrendous afternoon. It must be said that 99.9% of Yeovil fans are also disgusted by what's happened as much as we are. One club, one community." So yeah, the question is, what can we do to stop it happening? Because this has proved that just as
Yeah.
much of a problem it is
Yeah.
abroad, it's right on our
It's
our own
outright as
turf.
well. Exactly. You know, we need some radical actions right now because it's not going to go away anytime soon. You know, clubs are being fined. UEFA or FIFA, they fine them certain sums of money. That's nothing for them. It's like as I told you last week when we were watching the Bulgaria game. It's like with plastic bags. You make them 10p, people are still going to buy them. Make them £20, they won't buy them. It's the same with racism, bans. Uh, national teams not being allowed to play in European competitions for the next 20 years or so. Something needs to change because it doesn't just affect the players, it affects the fans as well. We have to point out that it's not, it's only a small majority, it's a minority of fans, it's a tiny group, sometimes it's even organised groups, especially in countries like Bulgaria. But something needs to be done. There needs to be bans, and managers, after the Bulgaria manager, after the coming out to the press conference and saying that he didn't hear anything, even though that was an absolute lie. It's within the sport.
It's like censorship almost,
Exactly,
isn't it? Yeah.
exactly. It's within the sport,
Feels
and we
like a
have to get
taboo
rid
for
of it
them.
quickly.
Yeah, very good. I like your comparison with like plastic bags. Now
Yeah.
that's actually that's a really cool concept. Ground hopping little section on that. I have booked my next tickets to Gillingham. I'm going to be going to in a couple of weeks. I'm meeting my dad. I think we're watching the Rugby World Cup final in the morning, just in the pub, and then going on to Kent in the afternoon. Spurs away games, Chris. You got any in mind, or is it just too hard to get a ticket?
I'll probably go to the London games, the Watford game, the West Ham game as well. But
Sit in the
yeah,
home end for the Watford one, probably, can't we?
yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, no, the bigger clubs is quite difficult to get a ticket, like Arsenal or Chelsea and stuff.
On to a bit of cricket. We will return to football towards the end. India against South Africa, the third test. India set to whitewash South Africa in the test series and have a dominant position after 3 days. Virat Kohli's team, they racked up 497 in their first innings, with Rohit Sharma scoring another century. In fact, he actually went one better and scored 212, an innings that included 28 fours and 6 sixes. Ajinkya Rahane, he found form himself and he scored a ton of his own, helping India to another huge total. In reply, South Africa were struggling at the close and they were on 9-4-2, so it looks like India are going to win that one comfortably. The 100 draft, this took place last night, or Sunday night I should say. This is the new 100 ball competition that's coming to England and Wales next summer, so it's going to be full of superstars from all around the world. I'll just read out the teams for you, and you can decide which one you think is the strongest. So for the Trent Rockets, they've got Joe Root, Rashid Khan, Darcy Short, Lewis Gregory, Alex Hales, Nathan Coulter-Nile, Harry Gurney, Stephen Mullaney, Carter, Luke Wood, Moores, Dawud Malan, Ben Cox, Luke Fletcher and Wright, so quite a lot of local boys in that one. The Southern Brave, this looks like the strongest team to me. Jofra Archer, Andre Russell, David Warner, Liam Dawson, James Vince, Shadab Khan, Chris Jordan, Timel Mills, Whiteley, Rawlins, Pope, Garton, Davis, Max Waller and Craig Overton. The Northern Superchargers, Ben Stokes, Aaron Finch, Mujibur Rahman, Chris Lynn, Adil Rashid, Adam Lythe, David Willey, Gleeson, Folkes, Tom Culler-Cadmore, Veese, Rimington, Corse, Barnard and Simpson. The Welsh Fire, also a strong team. This one, Johnny Bairstow, Mitchell Stark and Steve Smith, that's the top three. Ingram, Banton, Tom Banton, very promising prospect there. Ben Duckett, Ravi Rampal, Simon Harmer, Essex's spinner. Kayser Med, Plunkett, Tendescarter, Payne, Higgins, Briggs and Duploy. The Oval Invincibles, halfway through now, are Sam Curran, Sunil Narayan, Jason Roy, Sam Billings, Riley Rousseau, Tom Curran, Reece Topley, Viyun, Allen, Blake, Jacks, Wood, Salter and Evans. The Manchester Originals are Joss Butler, Imran Tahir, Dane Villas, Phil Salt, Tom Abel, Matt Parkinson, Mahmood, Dan Christian, Wayne Madsen, Wayne Parnell, Mitch Santner, Joe Clark, Martin DeLanger, Pollock and Ed Byram. London Spirit, Burns, Maxwell Morgan, Naby Amir, Van der Merwe, Mark Wood, Joe Denley, Tom Lawrence, not Tom Lawrence, no, definitely not Dan Lawrence from Essex, Mason Crane, Kyle Abbott, Rossington, Zach Crawley, Jay Dernbach and Reese. And finally the Birmingham Phoenix, Chris Wokes, Liam Livingston, Moeen Ali, Williamson, Bapara, Benny Howell, Tom Helm, Shaheen Afridi, Pat Brown, Host, Delport, Brooks, Adam Zampa, Ricky Vessels and Cook in that one. So yeah, as I said, probably the Southern Brave or the Welsh Fight looking like the strongest teams there. Now catch my breath again, moving on to the World 2020 qualifiers for the Men's World 2020 next year in Australia. So yeah, we've just had the World Cup this year, but don't worry, there's even more cricket on its way. And that currently looks like this. Group A, Papua New Guinea, Netherlands, Singapore, Scotland. That's the top four. Only played 2 games so far. Kenya, Bermuda and Namibia. So yes, the top team I believe qualifies for the World Cup, and second and third get to the semi-finals, and then fourth you got a playoff with 5th place to then play the other semi-final. So that's the cricket update for this week. The Champions League of Darts, the darts tournament's coming thick and fast now. There's another one next weekend, but this weekend it was Michael van Gerwen again who won another major title this year. He's now won all the televised TV titles this year, but he had some luck, let's just say. He beat Peter Wright 11-10 in the last leg decider in the final. Wright missed 3 championship darts, and this is very reminiscent of the Premier League darts final back in May. I remember going to the O2 and watching this, where Wright missed 6 darts to take the championship. And Kris, do you think that sometimes, Peter Wright hasn't beaten Michael van Gerwen very much, but he's never beaten him in a TV final? Do you just think like the pressure of being televised and that can get to you, or is it the fact that he's never beaten him that was in his head? Like, he should have beaten him this time. Like, what do you think keeps stopping him?
I think there is a psychological issue there. I'm not sure what it is, but we have to point out that Michael van Gerwen is an absolute machine. He's not human. The things that he does, the way he plays is just ridiculous. But it could be a lot of things. It could be the pressure from the fans. It could be the cameras. Could be the TV, or it could be just seeing Michael van Gerwen's face. That could be it.
Yes, earlier in the tournament, Michael Smith and Gerwen Price, they progressed from their groups as well. The tournament split with 8 players and 2 groups of 4, and then the top 2 qualify from each group and meet in the semi-finals. They were beaten by Peter Wright and van Gerwen respectively in the semi-finals, but van Gerwen now won every major title this year, and he's not lost to Peter Wright in a TV final. Van Gerwen's dominance continues. The Rugby World Cup, it was quarter-final weekend, and these were the results. England 40, Australia 16, New Zealand 46, Ireland 14, Wales 20, France 19, Japan 3, South Africa 26. I watched the England game. That was the perfect performance from them, and they looked very comfortable throughout. New Zealand, that's going to be England's opponents, and they looked probably even more comfortable against Ireland. Wales against France. Wales got a bit lucky. I thought their try to win the game, the pass might have gone forward. Yeah. But France, it was kind of, they were the masters of their own downfall, getting that red card. Yeah. And then Japan against South Africa. The dream's over for Japan. It was quite a sort of professional performance from South Africa. And they kind of they wore the Japanese down and then capitalised later on to record what was a comfortable victory. On to our preview section for this week. 2 games, both of our teams being involved next Sunday, kicking off at the same time. Norwich at home to Man United and Liverpool at home to Tottenham. I'll start with Norwich. It's a game we are genuinely looking to get 3 points for. I think Man United's winless away run stretches back to, I think, like March or something. And although it kind of has that tag, like along come Norwich, like we're the team who's going to then end the bad run for them, but hopefully not. I think sort of Man United definitely played better against Liverpool, but I think they raised their game almost, as they naturally do against Liverpool, and they're still a vulnerable team on the road, but they are still Man United, and we're still Norwich, a team who can't really defend. But if we play with confidence and believe we can win like we did against Man City, we can definitely get some points from it. And 3 points now would be lovely. Tough game for the Lily Whites next week.
Very tough game, especially away. We have not won an away game this season, but looking forward to this one. If we are to bounce back anytime soon, there is no better way to do it than against Liverpool at home. And if we do get a result, even a draw, if we do get a result, I reckon it'll build the confidence up of the players. And the results, the away results this season for us, we played Man City away and we managed a 2-2 draw, and we played Arsenal away and we managed a 2-2 draw. So against the big teams, we are doing okay-ish away. It's the smaller teams this season that we are struggling with.
And then the Champions League game on Tuesday.
Champions League, we've got Red Star Belgrade at home on Tuesday night. I think it's a must-win game if we are to go through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. It's going to be a tough game, but I think we've got this one in the bag.
Oh yes, so the rest of the games concerning the teams in England are Man City home to Atalanta, and then Genk against Liverpool, and Ajax versus Chelsea. And the Rugby World Cup semi-finals next weekend, England against New Zealand and Wales against South Africa. Which way is it going to go?
Both games very early in the morning.
Yes.
England, New Zealand, that's an interesting one because both teams, as you said, look very comfortable in their quarterfinals. New Zealand seem to be flying at the moment, but England are not doing much worse. I think it'll be tight. But hopefully, well, for me, I think whichever team wins this tie will lift the trophy. But but hopefully it'll go England's way.
Yeah, I think playing New Zealand just sort of in a test match compared to playing them in the World Cup is just two different games completely,
definitely.
which is why they've been so dominant. And I think England will put up a good fight against them, but I think the All Blacks will be just too strong for us in the end. South Africa, I think they'll beat Wales fairly comfortably. And then the final, I'd probably back New Zealand to win that too. But we will see what happens. England have certainly displayed plenty of quality during the World Cup, and they should be full of confidence after that victory over Australia. And finally, as I said, a bit of darts is going to be on this week as well. The Unibet European Championship, that'll take place from the 24th to the 27th of October in Göttingen, Germany. And James Wade, he's the current champion there after he beat Simon Whitlock in the 2018 final. So will MVG win another one, or will we finally have a different name on a trophy this year?
Nah, the machine will lift a trophy again. No question.
I think you are probably right. That concludes this latest episode of Off the Woodwork. 4 episodes in now, really enjoying it as usual, and hopefully we'll be back next week discussing our next week's episode. I'm not too sure whether we'll be on Tuesday or Wednesday, as we've both got different plans, haven't we? What are you up to, Kris, next week?
Yes, we do. I've got work experience with the Telegraph Sports Desk. Very much looking forward to it. What about you?
I'm having a week at TalkSport. Working there on the afternoon show with the producers on that, Hawksby and Jacobs. So we're both going to probably learn a fair bit next week, and hopefully that'll improve the output of these podcasts each week. So thank you very much for all the support so far, and we will see you next week, or speak to you next week.